Yep, we're rolling. All right, everybody, you ready for some Animaniacs? And Pinky and the Brain? You're in for a treat. We have three of the most very special, gifted people in the world with us today. Please welcome to the stage Rob Paulson. Maurice LaMarche. And Jess Harnell.
Should we just spread around?
You can sit wherever you want. You can actually hop around if you want.
This is good.
I want to sit on Mo's lap.
All right.
All right. Hey, I'll work you like a ventriloquist.
You want to just all be right here?
You sit there.
You sit
Can
there.
you guys, is this okay?
You go there.
It's like the Three Stooges.
It's pretty much going to be.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Hello, Seattle.
Is this thing on?
It's not on.
It's not on?
Oh, here, well, let's try this.
wait.
We've all got our own mic.
Are you
Hello,
pondering what we're pondering?
I think so, Brain, but why would anyone want to Pierce Brosnan?
Can we get Jess's mic?
Now I think, oh, there you go.
There we
Look at
go.
that. Look, thank you, God. Hey, Robbie, we got to start this off right. You ready? Hello, Seattle! Hot damn. Thanks for coming, everybody. We'll see you next time.
That's very nice of you to come. That's so sweet of you.
Tell you what, next time you guys do one of those things, I'm going to come and see you. How's that sound? Hell yeah.
So I think the story of Animaniacs probably begins in Tiny Toons land, does it not? You guys all work together on that, or?
We did,
They're both Steven Spielberg projects.
I showed up late in the game, dude. I was sleeping in the parking lot.
Yeah. Jesse was still in rehab when we were doing Tiny Toons, but Mo and I worked. Mo is Dizzy Devil.
Bunny, yummy, me love pizza roll.
And you were foul mouth, right?
Yeah, I was foul mouth. Dad gummit, why, boop, you bucked it for 2 cents, I you, dad gummit, for I, bada ba, bada boom, bada bing, I'm gonna beat you like a beep.
Yeah. How does your dad make a living?
How obvious was it from the start that you were onto something special with Animaniacs?
Oh, well, can I just, for me, I have to say, it was kind of like, in my view, and I've said this before in various interviews, I kind of felt like, can you guys hear me okay in the back, by the way? Okay.
I'll take that as a yes.
I kind of felt like the folks at Warner Brothers were sort of doing their homework on Tiny Toons, not to sort of, belittle the accomplishments of that group, and a number of them went on to work on Animaniacs. But I know that when Animaniacs came along, it kind of felt like, okay, you're graduating to something that's going to be another level.
Yeah, it was perfected.
Yeah.
They'd perfected the formula. They tried it on Tiny Toons, and I think what they'd done with Tiny Toons, they still tried to tie it to the original Warner Brothers universe, for want of a better word. And
Or
I think,
Acme University.
exactly. So everybody was like a student of Bugs Bunny or Daffy Duck, was Plucky, was Plucky's protege. And I think with Animaniacs, they got the idea, let's just sever the ties with the original sort of universe, as it were, almost like beyond any kind of next generation kind of thing, and just go, let's just invent new characters.
Yeah, and they gave us all a backstory, and
that had nothing to do with Bugs Bunny. In other words, to borrow a phrase from Matt Groening, Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, and they were cartoon characters, and Animaniacs was real.
Yeah.
That was the way they treated it.
I like that. For myself, I hadn't really done a lot of voiceover work prior to Animaniacs. I replaced the guy who did Roger Rabbit for a while for Disney, but other than that, I was just a studio singer, and I sang the theme song for Tasmania. You guys remember the show Tasmania?
I love Tasmania.
Yeah.
Really?
So I sang that theme song, and I wasn't really thinking about voiceover, but I kind of started getting auditions for things, and I auditioned for Animaniacs, and it was really cool, you guys, because I wasn't astute enough to be aware of how intimidated I should have been by these two gentlemen, and guys like Frank Welker and Tress MacNeille and people like that were on the show. So I just kind of showed up, as dumb as a pumpkin going, hey, it's cool how you make your voice sound like somebody that you're not. You know, and it was just so serendipitous. But I think that even though I didn't have a lot of history in cartoons at that point, Robbie and I used to sit in the parking lot when he was trying to talk me down from the ledge, and we'd say, you know, he said to me, he goes, "You realize that they're not all this good?" And I said, "Yeah, I have a feeling that's probably going to be right." And now, how many thousands of cartoons later, we really realize what a special show it was, you know?
Yeah, and I was saying to some of the nice folks out in line there, it really is difficult to put into words how important, or forgive me, how wonderful it is that you guys come out to these various events and meet us, because what we do is a pretty anonymous profession. And that has its good and bad points. The characters become famous and we're part of the character, but we don't get a chance to see the sort of immediate feedback that somebody, you know, who's on a sitcom gets and all that stuff.
We work in a closet, basically.
Yeah, basically.
I mean, we work in a very large walk-in closet.
But we're going to be coming out of the closet any second now.
That's right.
Teed it up for you.
And so we don't even know in the immediacy of the moment. We crack each other up, but there's times I think, well, we're just cracking each other up because we love each other, and we're, you know, we like guys at a party, you know, or is it really funny? And we don't find out till about 6 months later when the thing hits the air, and then we really find out when, you know, 20 years later when we come to, you know, Emerald City Comic-Con, meet you guys, the Seattle fans, who are, by the way, the Seattle fans are tremendous.
Unbelievable.
You guys are just great. Give yourselves a hand.
Really fantastic. And you know,
I was saying I was on a panel just before, but I'll say it again. The Seattle fans, you guys are like, you're interesting, you're sharp, but you're really, really polite. You're like edgy Canadians, and I love you guys.
No, it's true. And you know what's so great about it, and when you folks take the time to come and see us, it is such an enormous positive vibe for us, because it sort of is a vindication of everything we've ever said about fans and about how these characters become really important and have a profound positive effect on so many people. Because when Jesse or Mo or
If I start doing this, you do that.
See? Everybody becomes 8 years old all over again.
It's fantastic. Yeah, so thank you for paying attention. Really.
And when I do this, you cower in fear because you know that I will take over the world.
Now, I'll tell you what, though, you know what's really the sweetest thing, you guys, honest to goodness, is that, you know, we all have a healthy perspective on what we do and how lucky we are to do it. And we know that we're not, you know, saving the world or, you know, curing cancer or anything. But at the end of the day, it's so nice to hear, you know, have people that you'd never met before come up and say, "Hey, you really made me happy." And I just can't tell you how much that means to all of us. So we're really grateful to you.
Yeah.
And can I just say that what Brain said about taking over the world, he's so full of shit.
Now, you know what's going to happen.
Suck it, Pinky.
People love that. Mo and I don't know if you guys heard, but Mo and I, you guys, some of you know the Nerdist podcast.
Chris Hardwick.
Chris Hardwick's Nerdist podcast.
Go download episode 187 as soon as you get back to your hotel rooms.
Yeah,
okay?
It's really funny, and Mo is
about
just
porn.
On fire. What people love is there's something about hearing.
It's us, only it's us talking the way we talk to each other, like, you know, in the parking lot.
Right.
And, you know, we're very real. Let's just put it that way.
And it's kind of like the outtakes. People ask me about outtakes. Dudes, ladies, gentlemen, all your dudes and dudettes, I would pay money for the outtakes of, you know, hearing
Yakko say, "Oh, kiss my ass."
You know, it's quite enjoyable. Thank you very much. Did you have a question that you'd like to pose to us? Okay.
Sure.
Hello, Dad.
For those that don't know, which came first, the character or the voice, and how did you decide on the voice for each of your characters?
Well, when you're talking about the design,
like the character design.
Oh yeah, that always comes first.
With this show, definitely they had designed the characters first. Steven Spielberg and his team of artists on Animaniacs definitely had everybody sketched, drawn. They knew all their expressions. I mean, the model sheets were intricate.
They probably worked on it for a year before we got involved.
Before we even saw it.
With crayons.
Yeah. Can I take these home and color it? It was great.
Well, in my case, what happened was I auditioned. I went to my agency, and they had all these characters for this new show, and I heard the name Steven Spielman. Is it Spielman, Rob?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I knew I knew this would probably be a good job, and so I read for a few characters, and the Wacko voice originally was just this crazy cartoony voice, but when I went in for my callback with Andrea Romano, who's just one of the greatest animation directors in the whole wide world, she said, "I know you do impressions. What about if you did Wacko as Elvis?" For real. So I was in there going, "Hey man, hello nurse. What's going on, nurse? How you doing?" Whatever the hell it was. Faboo, man. And then she said, "Well, you do the Beatles, why don't you do it as one of the Beatles?" And I think I started really doing it like John, and that's where it began. But the thing is that then, for some reason, it became Ringo for like half an hour. It was Ringo. And then what was weird about it is they showed me this picture of Wacko, and I saw that he was very small, you see. And I knew that he couldn't have this big, low voice if he was just this tiny little guy.
So what I did is I sort of made like a hybrid and pitched him up, and he became sort of all four of the Beatles at the same time if he were a midget.
Just that easy. It was, as I recall, it was also a very long audition process because we all knew that since they had done all this work on Tiny Toons and, as Mo said, sort of perfected the formula, yeah, that they were really going to swing for the fences on Animaniacs. And so I remember talking to Tress MacNeille virtually every night for like 6 weeks. We didn't hear anything for a week, then we'd go back and read and not hear anything else, and Tress would call in tears, and I'm like, "What are you crying about? You're a genius. You're going to get all the work you want." But we knew that it was a very special thing. And I have to say, from the beginning of the whole operation to here we are, matter of fact, it premiered 19 years ago this fall. We started recording them 20 years ago.
Wow.
March of 1992 is when we all got the job. Really? So these are 20 years old. And and here a lot of you were very young, or even not even born in some cases when that was on. And I think it's a testament to not only just the show itself, but to the sort of foresight that the people had that created it, because their inspirations were the old Warner Brothers stuff, the Jay Ward stuff, the Rocky and Bullwinkle, and all of those things that did not condescend to the audience. They were designed to be appealing to kids, when Yakko drops the anvil on Baloney's head, and then pop cultural references political references that made sense to adults.
Not to mention the Marx Brothers influence, which
Absolutely.
was very important to Tom Ruger. He said, and that was my mistake because I read for your character doing a spot on Groucho Marx. I was totally wrong for it. Yeah, I read for everything and booked nothing except.
Yes, my friend.
There you go, that guy. But I was, that one was like, you talk about whether the design came first. Right. I looked at that design and I went, it's got to be Orson Welles.
Yeah.
And they did not have Orson Welles in mind. He was modeled on a writer named Tom Minton. Yeah. And if you look at it, if you look up Tom Minton on Facebook, you'll look and go, "Oh, that's the brain." Of course, that's the brain. But I saw Welles, I did Welles, and apparently they cast me on the spot. But everything else,
no. As a matter of fact, when I read for Pinky, they had already told me that Maurice was going to be doing the brain, and it made perfect sense because Mo, for years, has been doing his, we know a remote farm in Lancashire where Mrs. Buckley lives, the famous Orson Welles outtake tape. Right. I cut my teeth on that. Can we have a small taste of that, Mr. Welles?
Do a little of it, Mr. Welles.
We know a remote farm in Lincolnshire where Mrs. Buckley lives. Every July, peas grow there. Do you really mean that?
Yeah, I'd start about a half second late.
Don't you think you really want to say July over the snow? Isn't that the fun of it?
Well, if you could make it almost when that shot disappears, I think it'll make much.
I think it's so nice that you see a snow-covered field and say every July peas grow there. Get me a jury and show me how you can say in July and I'll go down on you. That's just stupid.
So, and I would just Tourette that out. To the point that everybody was absolutely sick of it, and I actually thought when I saw Brain, I thought, oh well, they've taken my Orson Welles. They did this part for me, I guess. I actually thought not outright, but I thought, could they have really designed that?
Well,
thinking,
I'm telling you
we'll
now,
do something for Maurice's Orson Welles voice so that he'll shut the hell up.
Well, but also, and
they hadn't had that. It was like nobody thought of it. So
that's why it was a genius. But
yeah,
in the sort of pantheon of, can you see us? Hi, sweeties. Nice to see you over there. You're so cute. I just love this gig. In the sort of great pantheon of show business, though, you know, there are these iconic roles played by iconic actors, and to me, irrespective of whether they're live action or animated, it doesn't matter. I mean, Jack Nicholson, you know, is R.P. McMurtry or McMurphy in Cuckoo's Nest. I mean, there's no, or Jake Gittes in Chinatown, right? And I can't, you honestly, after years and years and years later, you hear Maurice do the brain, and you cannot think of anybody else that would be, you know, more perfect. And he's got an ego, giant ego.
You're so cute
Rob,
when you do that.
what was the inspiration for Pinky as far as the voice, and was Pinky always British?
The inspiration was a check.
Yeah. I have to say though that by the end of the day one, they thought they already had Pinky.
Right.
They thought they had a Pinky. Rob had not come in for his auditions yet. Wow. And at the end of the day, they were pretty sure that Pinky was going to be TV's Gomez from the Addams Family, John Astin.
How about that?
He was like first choice until you walked in, and they cast you on the spot, literally. They didn't say any
John
more
Astin,
Pinky's
with whom Maurice and I have worked. We both did Tasmania together.
Yeah. And John had the great idea of playing the villain character, Bull,
as an alligator. Bull Gator, right?
Bull Gator, yeah, Bull Gator, who's this, you know, sort of game-hunting alligator who's trying to bag Taz, as a really cheerful guy. I mean, he's a bad guy, but he went completely against type and played him completely upbeat.
Right.
Come along, Axel, it's time to bag that Tasmanian devil.
And then I would say, all right, Bull, I'm going to do what I can, but he's going to bite me.
You're a pip, Axel, you know.
Oh, my God.
And he brought that cheerfulness to his Pinky read, and they thought that might balance out nicely, but you were perfect.
Well, and to answer your question, Dan, I for some reason, and I don't know why, it's probably because my heroes as a kid were the Pythons and the Goons and Peter Sellers and Spike Milligan and, you know,
that's right.
all those guys.
You know, all those bunts.
Peter Cook, what a silly bunt. Peter Cook and Dudley Moore and all those guys. So, when I saw Pinky, I thought, well, he looks really stupid. I got that down. And then I noticed he had this sort of overbite. And I don't know what inspired me to try to do something British, but that is what I did initially.
And I just know that he might have a difficult time pronouncing his R's properly because he had a severe maxillar occlusion, which means buck teeth is what it means.
And initially, like a lot of characters, it started off, it was more stupid, like, hey, go, brain. All the blue, that was a more little.
That's right. The voice did morph a little bit as we got about 6 episodes in. I think you found the Pinky voice.
Yeah, and then they said they liked it a little higher and a little, little, you know, sort of,
what? La 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 la.
There is a microphone in the center aisle, and we'll have time for a few questions, maybe 15 people or so. So if you want to line up there, if you have questions for the gang, we'll do that. I wanted to ask you, how involved was Steven Spielberg on this show, and did you ever get to meet him?
He stayed at my house while we were casting.
Are you kidding? Oh yeah, that's
you know,
gullible.
I'll interject something, man. You know, it was intimidating to work for somebody like Steven Spielberg, but I got a quick, very nice anecdote I can share with you. First of all, the first season that we did it at Christmas time, he himself commissioned custom cells for each one of us of him, a cartoon of Steven holding our characters that he signed to us. And that was like, wow, man, this guy's really, really cool. Later on, I had a jacket made. I had a jacket airbrushed with Animaniacs on it. And Robbie and Tress saw it.
Oh,
and
this is a great story, yeah.
They wanted to get the same jacket from this artist. And I said, sure. And then, I don't know, maybe it was you that suggested, let's get one for Steven, you know. So we had one made for Steven.
Well, wait a minute. Let me just say very quickly.
Please.
We have these really cool, Jesse has a friend in LA that does this incredible airbrushing. So Jess had this great biker jacket with all the Animaniacs stuff. So we ended up getting, you had one done for me, one for Tress, and one for you. And Andrea, and Tom Ruger. And then somebody said, you know, one for Mr. Spielberg, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So there are 6 of them in existence.
Yeah, that's it, in the whole wide world. And we said, well, we'll ship it to him, you know, where should we send it? And somebody came back in and said, no, he wants you to bring it up and have lunch with him.
Yeah.
Right? So we're up there, and we go
In fact, excuse me again. I have to do this because this is another interesting part of that very story. I got a phone call at home from Bonnie, who was now one of his producers, but used to be his personal assistant.
Yep.
And she said, hi, Rob, it's Bonnie from Steven Spielberg from Amblin. Steven understands that you have a jacket for him, and maybe you guys would like to come over and have lunch at Amblin, and you give it to him. And I said, yeah, okay, Bonnie. I would love to, but I'm too busy, flossing my bowling ball.
With George Lucas.
Yeah, I thought it was somebody just screwing with me, and then she just kind of like, no, it really is. And then I just felt like a complete idiot. And so then we all went over and we had lunch with Steven.
And he works at the nicest Taco Bell you've ever seen, man. His offices are the nicest Del Taco in existence, and it was so nice because he recognized us by name, and he sat and had lunch with us. And the weirdest part is, like 5 years after the fact, I was at another event at Warner Brothers, and he came out to shake hands with some guys from Sony, and it had literally been like 5-6 years since I'd seen the guy. And the girl I was with said, "Oh, you should go say hello." And I said, "Yeah, well, I'm sure he's got his hands full." But I kind of stood like 100 feet away, and he's bowing and nodding to these guys from Sony, and he goes over and he goes, "Hey, Jess, how you doing?"
How about that?
And
That's
it's
pretty
just
cool.
like, well, it explains a lot.
Yeah, he's a really lovely man.
Really, really cool guy, yeah. And you always want to ask him how much money he's got in his pocket at any given moment. It's really rare.
Go ahead and introduce yourself and let us hear your question.
Hi. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yep. Sure, we know you.
Closer. Can you, maybe you can speak up.
Closer. Closer.
Clarice.
I just want to say it was a great pleasure to meet each one of you individually.
Thank you,
Thank
sweetie.
you. You too, hon.
I'm a big fan of the cultural references in Animaniacs and
Yeah.
Pinky and the Brain. Do you guys have any particular favorite ones, like movie parodies? I remember I am a very model of a cartoon individual.
Oh, yeah, Gilbert and Sully. I am the very model of a cartoon individual. My animation's comical, unusual, and whimsical. I'm quite adept at funny guys' comedic theory. I have read from wicked jokes and stupid puns to anvils that drop on your head. That one? No, not that one. Well,
I'm not aware of that one.
there are a number of cultural, and some of them are things that got by the censors, like you're talking maybe like the fingerprints line.
Yeah.
Somebody can say fingerprints or fingerprints. Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't write it. I just said it.
The Heart of Darkness was also a Heart of Darkness, or the.
Oh, yes.
Apocalypse
Jeff
Now?
Bennett. And Jeff Bennett, the lovely and talented Jeff Bennett, played Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
Your weird cuteness, man.
You're
all of
freaking
that.
me out, man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and we did great. They did Les Miserables, if you like music.
I
How
love
about,
that so
wasn't that
much.
absolutely ridiculous? And to
So
this
much.
day, I had Steve and Julie Bernstein, two of the world-class composers from that show, on my podcast a few weeks ago, and we talked about that stuff. And, when you go down the list, Steve and Julie, just those two guys, their musical backgrounds are world-class composers. These aren't just guys that have written a couple of ditties for, some jewelry store in the mall. They're serious composers, and we were full of people like that on all sides of it.
Not to mention the late Richard Stone, who was the head of the music team.
Richard Stone.
Yeah.
The term genius gets bandied around a lot, but Richard Stone was absolutely a genius.
Yeah.
And the amount of work that he accomplished and the legacy he left behind, at 48 he died or something, 47? Absolutely ridiculous. Amazing.
He insisted on recording the music for the show with a 35-piece live orchestra. And doing so on the same soundstage that Carl Stalling recorded the original Warner Brothers cartoon music on.
Isn't that cool?
So we went to recording sessions, and I was like, wow, I'm standing in the middle of my childhood.
Yeah.
You know how you guys are coming up to us and saying, you guys were my childhood? That's where I got to go. I'm standing in the middle of
Absolutely.
my childhood. Standing in the
And if they had let me in the
same
building,
stage.
I would have said the same thing.
Yeah.
Mo. It would have-
And they used the same grand piano.
The exact same
that Carl
piano.
Stalling used. They tuned it every week.
The wood paneling on the walls, it was unchanged. It was beautiful, such a beautiful
Spectacular.
studio.
And you were amazed by the musicians, but you said they were equally amazed with all
Oh
of
yeah,
you.
it's freaky because I'd go down and watch the. Thank you for your question, by the way, sweetie. I'd go down and watch the, them do the scoring things because you just don't see that anymore.
Yeah,
Right.
very
And
true.
Yakko climbs up the water tower and the xylophone guy goes ding. It's the coolest thing in the world. So we'd walk in there. Rich would say, "Rob, come on out here. Come out here." And ladies and gentlemen, Yakko Warner and these world-class musicians are freaking out that.
Yakko is in the.
They did, and I'm just going, dude, you're playing these 30-second notes on your fiddle. How on earth does that impress you? But it's a mutual admiration society. We all knew that we were involved with something pretty spectacular.
Rich Stone gave me the baton once. Or
Did he really?
He went to give me the baton.
He gave me the finger once.
I was at Fingerprints. Yeah. I went to one of those recording sessions. I had my little baby son there, and my little baby son.
Little baby son, he was on his
baby son right over
he's
here.
on his fourth gin,
Yeah,
Ricky.
I think that's maybe we instilled a love of music because he was actually there listening to a live orchestra
Yeah.
at like 8 months old. And Rich said, "Do you want to conduct for a number?" And I turned to him and I said, "I can't. I don't have the training. I feel I dishonor the profession." I mean, he just wanted me to stand out there and listen to a click track. I would have been able to, and now that'll never come my way again. But what was really cool was those musicians were, half of them were in the LA Philharmonic. And we made a point always, again, to expose our son to music. We would go to the Hollywood Bowl.
Right.
And we had friends that had really like front row seats. And I was sitting there in the front row seat, and like, the cellist was like, "Hey, Mo, come on up at the break." He's giving me a whole thing. So I got to go up on the stage at the Hollywood Bowl and look at it. 18,000 people who were all going to the bathroom, and it was really great. It was just so anyway.
Cool stuff.
The show's brought some cool stuff.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that
You're wrong.
the production
See, I resisted doing that, but
that the production crew that you guys had the idea of branching out into theatrical shorts with the Animaniacs characters, and for whatever reason that only happened once.
I don't know.
I'm mad, I think he's
Yeah. But do you know why that didn't go further?
Why there weren't more theatrical shorts?
Yeah.
I can only assume it was some corporate decision. I mean, it's like kind of like, and I know, I don't know about in this room, but we probably, all of us, every now and then we'll get emails or texts or tweets or something saying, "Mr. Paulson, would you please talk to the folks at Warner Brothers about having, Animaniacs, the fourth DVD released?"
yeah, I get that request all the time.
And that's very sweet, but we have no sway over that, none. I mean, we don't hang out with the folks in Warner Brothers marketing, and we have no idea why they didn't release it. I presume it's because of a Spielberg Warner Brothers connection.
it's the co-ownership thing.
Kind of a complicated political relationship. But as to why there were no more theatrical shorts, rightly or wrongly, I presume they figured it wasn't cost effective. I mean, it is still, it's a for-profit business.
Yeah.
And having said that, Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain and Freakazoid, not Batman so much, Batman and Superman were huge moneymakers, but honestly, in terms of the return on their investment, I can't imagine that they made a huge amount of money on Animaniacs, maybe over and above what they would do with respect to the airing of the shows, because it wasn't like they sold a jillion action figures. They were very expensive shows to make, like mostly with the music.
Yeah.
Probably $400,000 or $500,000 per half hour, which is a lot of money. So.
And they basically did it because it was a labor of love for
Right,
Steven
yeah.
Spielberg, and I believe that the studio saw themselves as beginning a long-time relationship with him, which I guess never really came to fruition. He went off and formed DreamWorks
Yeah,
instead,
SKG.
but I think that was like sort of a gimme to him. So they had the creative freedom of just throwing money at it, or rather, Spielberg had the creative freedom of Warner Brothers throwing money at it and just making a really good cartoon show for its own sake, and doing something funny rather than something that will sell toys. And you notice you don't get a cartoon in front of very many, movies these days.
Right.
So for them to say, well, let's spend, $200,000 to make a cartoon to go in front of our next Warner Brothers picture, they don't do that anymore. They know you'll come to watch the movie without a cartoon in front, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Cheaper to show Mountain Dew commercials and stuff.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah,
very true.
But it's a
exactly.
good question. I can only presume that's why it was.
Did they use cells on Animaniacs, or was it all digital?
No, it was
at that
cells.
point?
Who sells?
So that's also.
We
adds
stole
up
a
the
bunch of
cost.
them. We got some.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
First off, all you guys, greatest voices. I loved Animaniacs. Maurice, I loved with, what is it? Harvey Birdman.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're very kind.
Orson
Thank you.
Welles, when you did Orson Welles.
Thank you.
incredible.
It's ridiculous,
Very
isn't it?
kind of you.
And that is amazing to hear
Yeah.
you do that in person.
Thank you.
My question, how many times did you have to do retakes for the country song?
One take.
What?
Yes.
One clean take, and then they got a safety. It was amazing.
Yep. True facts.
And here's the thing, though. He can't remember it. He does no. If you ask him to do it, he cannot remember it at all. It's
That's
amazing.
tragic, really.
Go ahead. I challenge you to sing the Country of the World song, Rob. I bet you that you don't remember even what I'm talking about. You don't even remember the song I'm speaking of.
I still think you're full of shit.
All right, I'll see if I can muddle my way through this.
Dredge it up.
Let's see. It goes. Oh, that one.
United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru, Republic, Dominican, Cuba, Caribbean, Greenland, El Salvador, too, Puerto Rico, Colombia, Venezuela, Honduras, Guyana, and still Guatemala, Bolivia, then Argentina, and Ecuador, Chile, Brazil, Costa Rica, Belize, Nicaragua, Bermuda, Bahamas, Tobago, San Juan, Paraguay, Uruguay, Suriname, and French Guiana, Barbados, and Guam, Norway, and Sweden, and Iceland, and Finland, and Germany now on peace. Switzerland, Austria, Czechoslovakia, Italy, Turkey, and Greece. Poland, Romania, Scotland, Albania, Ireland, Russia, Oman, Bulgaria, Saudi Arabia, Hungary, Cyprus, Iraq, and Iran. There's Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, both Yemen, Kuwait, and Bahrain. The Netherlands, Luxembourg, Belgium, and Portugal, France, and Denmark, and Spain. India, Pakistan, Burma, Afghanistan, Thailand, Nepal, and Bhutan. Cambodia, Malaysia, then Bangladesh, Asia, and China, Korea, Japan. Mongolia, Laos, and Tibet, Indonesia, the Philippine Islands, Taiwan. Sri Lanka, New Guinea, Sumatra, New Zealand, then Borneo, and Vietnam. Tunisia, Morocco, Uganda, Angola, Zimbabwe, Djibouti, Botswana, Mozambique, Zambia, Swaziland, Gambia, Guinea, Algeria, Ghana. But wait, there's more. Burundi, Lesotho, and Malawi, Togo, the Spanish Sahara is gone. Niger, Nigeria, Chad, and Liberia, Egypt, Benin, Gabon, Tanzania, Somalia, Kenya, and Mali, Sierra Leone, and Algeria, Dahomey, Namibia, Senegal, Libya, Cameroon, Congo, Zaire, Ethiopia, Guinea, Bissau, Madagascar, Rwanda, Mayotte, and Cayman, Hong Kong, Abu Dhabi, Qatar, Yugoslavia, Crete, Mauritania, then Transylvania, Monaco, Liechtenstein, Malta, and Palestine, Fiji, Australia, Sudan.
So that was Rob Paulson.
Thank you. Oh, now stop it. No, no. Thank you. Can I tell you this? There's kind of a fun little story very quickly.
Let's see the guys at the My Little Pony panel do that.
That's right.
There's something about saying, guys, My Little Pony.
Yeah, well, you know.
There's a cute story. When that was premiered at Comic-Con in 1993, September of 93, it was Comic-Con, giant room like this, and they played that piece. And there was a lady in the front row who appeared to me as though she was like Patti LaBelle dressed as a Klingon.
Awesome.
Which is redundant. and she said, I have a question for Bishop Paulson. Yes, did you improvise that?
Oh, that's good. Oh.
And Tom Ruger looked at me and said, well, did you? I said, I did. And I wish I could stay and answer more questions, but I'm going to improvise a song about everybody who's ever played Major League Baseball in alphabetical order. I'm good, but I'm not that good. But anyway, thank you very much. Yeah. So yes, I do know the words.
So we have about 5 or 10 minutes for questions here, so maybe a short little brief answers too.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah. Because
I hate saying
well, that. You asked. Okay.
Hello. Oh.
Hello.
Oh, good heavens, do I actually sound like this?
I know, it's freaky, huh?
Okay, so what got each and every one of you into voice acting, and how do you come to, with such problems like stuttering or forgetting your lines or perhaps emphasizing your vocal range, how do you overcome those problems?
Well, what led me into voice acting was being a singer. I started doing that stuff, session work and things like that, and I just always had a proclivity for it. You know how like a lot of kids, little kids will draw pictures, and they're all 5 years old, and they're all real cute until one comes along and you look at it and go, wow, this kid I could make some money from, right? Well, it's like in my case, I just always liked doing voices. I was always parroting my teachers and my family members and stuff, and one thing led to another, and here we are all these years later, man. It's just something I was kind of born doing. How about you guys?
Boris?
Well, I mean, I always had a facility, and again, for me, it was like from the age of like five years old on up, I would walk home from school doing the Warner Brothers characters, the ba-roop, 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 boop. And I did do this while I'm walking along, and they sent me to
still
school.
does that.
No wonder he got beat up.
They sent me, which way did he go, George? Which way did he go? Shut up, shutting up, all those characters. And they sent me to the school psychologist, and they really did, actually. They wanted to know what made me tick. And so for me, it was about never wanting to be me and losing myself. You know, my problem was I couldn't speak as myself. Not that I had trouble disappearing into characters. So from there, I just somehow made this journey into stand-up comedy and impressions. So my path has been a little different. I never had this as a goal. I fell sideways into it from the world of stand-up comedy and being a mimic, and it's taken on a life of its own. Mm-hmm. So it's not a very helpful answer, but it's my truth, unfortunately. I mean, training, musical training is helpful. Acting training is helpful. Improvisation, you know, letting go, and you know, these are the things that are the skills of the friends that I have in this business that, you know, carry them.
I fell back on it because I got fired from Wetzel's Pretzels. Who knew? But no, all of us have, and that's important for those of you that are actors, voice actors out there to know, because the question we get often is, how do you get into this gig and all that? Without exception, you guys, absolutely without exception, everybody with whom I work has a stand-up background, a music background. Mine is primarily music and then theater. They're all performers first. In other words, we all became actors and performers first. I don't know anybody that just showed up in LA because they did a great Fred Flintstone and they're working.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Everybody. Now, whether you get started earlier or later, I don't care. You go down the line. Tress, Nancy, you know, Jen Hale, Tara Strong, DiMaggio, Billy West, all of us have a music, performing, improv background.
Yeah.
And that is why the characters become so dear and so authentic, is because there's guts behind them. It's not sort of just a goofy sound.
Yeah.
You have another question, sir? Or, oh, you asked one. So I'm sorry, you can't ask another one. But thank you.
Is that good?
Well, actually, oh, thank you. Actually, what would it be like if Yakko and Pinky met the Mask?
If they met the Mask, they'd probably beat the hell out of him because they didn't like him. I don't know. I mean,
Well, you mean, they would say, hey, Mask, hey, God, look at the Mask. And the Mask was like, you both are smoking.
or something like that. Yeah. Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Now, there's a lady in the Chicago Blackhawks jersey that looks, that's a Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters.
Sweet.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to keep this brief, so I'll tell you a short anecdote about my childhood. Actually, I just wanted to know what it was like working with your nemesis, Snowball, working with Roddy McDowall.
Oh,
Oh
honey.
my God, what a delight as a human being. Roddy McDowall was the quintessential gentleman.
What a sweet man.
He showed up to the sessions in a tweed sport coat, perfectly pressed white shirt, and an ascot tie. I mean, he was old Hollywood in every best sense of that word.
Yeah.
He was on time. He was delightful. I never got the impression from him. Now, this is a man who, you know, was known for throwing parties on his Malibu deck. I mean, if you go on YouTube, go Roddy McDowall home movies. You'll see, you know, Jane Fonda in a bikini on his Malibu deck, getting a foot rub from John Philip Law. I mean, it was like, you know, just
Sounds like Saturday at Rob's house.
yeah. And so he was, you know, Hollywood royalty, and I never got a sense for a second that he felt like he was slumming by doing a cartoon.
No.
You know, he was delighted to be there. The work was as real and important to him as you know, God, the film about the Welsh mining town.
How Green
Was My Valley.
Yeah.
I mean, he treated it with the same professionalism, and he grew to love Snowball. I mean,
Totally.
it was
And
like,
you know what-
he loved, and we developed a very bantery relationship behind it. You know,
was
He never
fantastic.
went off into his trailer or anything like that. He hung out with us.
He did,
you know?
and he answered all my questions, and I said, my God, you know, because he still hung out with Elizabeth Taylor, and he it was like, what was it like to do Planet of the Apes, and he could not. I'm so glad you asked that question. He could not have been more dear, and he was also very ill with cancer.
Yeah.
When we were working with him, and I mean, Mo said professional. This guy never missed a beat. He was absolutely the most gentle, sweet soul. Never let anybody know he wasn't feeling good. Showed up, laughed, answered all of our questions, and I mean, it's one of the thrills of my life to be able to work with Roddy McDowall. And he was a gerbil!
Yeah.
How cool is that?
I felt so sad when he passed.
Oh,
I
it was
really felt like I
heartbreaking.
lost a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you for asking.
for
What
asking
a wonderful
that.
question. Thank you.
Thank you for answering.
Oh, honey, thank you so much. We have time for one more?
We have time for like one more question,
Okay.
yes.
Go right down to the microphone or pull it up to you.
These guys will all be signing this weekend, so you may get a chance to
Yeah,
chat
come and
with
see
them.
us. Go ahead.
Yeah, except everybody in here doesn't get anything signed, so just so you know. No, just kidding.
Put the mic right here and ask me
Yeah.
ask your question.
Go ahead.
Even though I was born a little bit afterwards when Animaniacs premiered, I've been watching it for as long as I can remember.
Oh,
Thanks, man.
thank you, buddy.
Is it creepy that we've been watching you for as long as we can remember?
That's right. By the way, your socks don't match, just in case you don't know.
Would you say that Animaniacs has helped you at all in your career? Like, have people given you jobs in voice acting because of what you've done in Animaniacs?
Thank you. The question, in case you couldn't hear, was this gentleman is asking, do we feel that Animaniacs has helped us in our respective careers? You want to go ahead and start?
Yeah, you know, I mean, the best way I can answer that question, we all had a nice dinner last night in honor of our friend Maurice's birthday. Everybody say happy birthday, Mo.
Happy birthday!
Thanks. We'll do the song later when we have more time. But we had this wonderful dinner, and we reflected on the fact that if you are blessed enough in show business to ever be on one sitcom, say you're Gilligan's Island or any show ever, and you have that 4-year run, it's like that's an amazing thing you got to do, right? Well, with voiceover, the beautiful thing, man, is that, you know, my first show was Animaniacs. These guys have had several before that. But since then, we have managed to consistently work. You know what I'm saying? And it's such a blessing, and it's such an unbelievable thing to maintain that kind of thing in an industry this competitive for that long. But in answer to your question, doing something like Animaniacs only increases your cachet because that show had such high visibility that people saw it. They heard the songs, they heard the characterizations and all the impressions and things we got to do and went, these guys must know what they're doing. We should probably hire them for Who's Cooking the Soup, right, Rob?
Right.
Yeah.
It definitely helped me. There's no question that success breeds success, and we'd have no show that, unless you're on The Simpsons, there aren't very many shows that last, more than a few years. But here we are, almost 20 years later, and young folks like yourself, other folks, people like myself, like Methuselah, enjoy the show for so many reasons, and like Mo, suggested that it was Warner Brothers did it for the most purest reasons, that they knew it was going to be a really good show, and it's continued to pay humorous and cultural dividends
Indeed.
right down the road.
Yep.
So absolutely, it helped me a lot. It also gave me confidence because I was able to perform a lot of these songs that we did on Animaniacs that I could, go on to work on other shows that hired me for a lot of music.
Yep.
Did you say
Thank you for your...
I never worked again. It was horrible. No, of course, it's tremendous cachet. It's a pedigree, and I said earlier that Futurama was this incredibly special thing, and it is, but the other incredibly special thing in my life was Pinky and the Brain and Animaniacs. Yeah. To get to work on a show of this caliber is just...
And Maurice LaMarche, he won't say anything, but Maurice LaMarche a few months ago won the Emmy for Futurama.
Yeah.
Don't say anything about mine. That's not what we're talking about. No, don't.
And Rob Paulson won the Emmy for Pinky and the Brain in 1999.
We got it.
Hi. Oh, you want us to
Thank you.
Hey, you guys.
Join these guys tonight for the Star Wars radio
the Star
play.
Wars thing is going to be ridiculous in the big room. We're signing stuff. We'd love to meet all you guys. Thanks for your support. We love you as much as you love us. And
Star Wars, the radio play.
Good night, everybody!
And we're signing out here.